Monday. I'm feeling infused with enthusiasm, if that's a thing. All right. Just been to the gym. I'm about to go on a bit of a run, actually. Hence why I'm still in my gym gear. But I wanted to spend some time answering some questions. Okay. Like literally answering some questions. Because I kind of usually pop on here with a bit of a debate or wanted to speak about something that kind of is on my mind at that time that I really wanted to kind of pass along. But today, I actually just want to answer your questions as simply as that. All right. If you're on, say hello. It'd be great to hear from you. Ugh, well, that's a strong coffee. Why not? Good morning, Philomena. How are you, Emmanuel Ali? How's it going? So I am live across YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter or X, Instagram. So yeah, let me know if you're on. Say hello, and also start to formulate a question. Because a lot of the time as well, like there's a lot of. I spend so much time like speaking to actors, and it'll be like I'll say something or and it'll always be like the first time they've ever heard it or dare ask the question or so what I want you to do is think of a question that you've maybe not dared ask or you've not asked of this industry before. I don't know because you think you might you think it might be a stupid question, for instance, or you have a bit of fear around that question. Just ask it, all right? And I genuinely want to yeah, answer questions that most people wouldn't ask, and it's perfectly fine. And I want you to ask it, and we'll get into it, and we will really get into some interesting points. All right. So who's going to ask my first question? Hi, Jane. How are you? All right. Who's going to be the one? It always has to begin with one person. George, it's a very personal one. I like it. What made you choose to pursue coaching? So my story is child actor. Um, Went to kind of one of these stage schools, theatre schools, and I did a kind of all my exams and bits and bats that you do at theatre school. We used to do what's called Guildhall exams, which was Trinity and Guildhall. And then I finished, I kind of got swept right through, and they're a bit like, right, well, you're kind of 16, whatever now. Um, why don't you start helping others towards theirs? And between the ages of like 16 and then as I got on, I was still doing a bit of acting, but doing bits and bats. But when I got into my early 20s, I was actually asked to kind of coach for different organizations, even at that young age. And what I was finding is that everybody was like wanting me to be their coach, So I'd work for an organization, some that are still existing now. And then the pupils at that organization would say, when's Matt coming? When is Matt? We want Matt. And then it made me realize, look, people like the way I coach, people like the way. So really, and I had the enthusiasm for it then. So I was like, right, I need to do this. And I really had a passion for it. And I realized how, that I was good at it. So that's it. I never ever looked back. And it's by far, and I think one of the first times that I realized that this was for me is when the first person that I'd coached actually got a huge role and they attributed it to how I'd taught them. And that was just game changing. It was like, this is better than me getting a role. This is so much better than anything I've experienced in my own career. And that's how I became a coach. So thanks for that question. It was a perfect one. Philomena says, if you get an audition self-tape request, is it okay to ask the casting director about the character? Right. Philomena, what I would say is with that one is what I would say is the casting director is kind of the conduit who is finding the actors based upon the brief that they've been given, and they will pass over that brief, so they won't have much more information unless they had to kind of go to extra miles to go and find that information. Okay. Now, you know as well as I do that basically they've seen that brief and they've seen something in you. What you've got to do is actually it's auditions aren't about getting it right. Okay? Auditions are about having various different versions of the scene done so that they can decide which version they like. You are all about giving your version. What is your version? Your version is the version that your personality traits and your characteristics and your demeanor. It's what those things bring to that scene. So any amount of questions and any amount of this and that is about you trying to get it right, maybe rather than just presenting your version. Really feel confident enough to go, right, I am a really, really professional actor, which you are, Philomena. But you've got to get happy with just going, I'm professional. I'm going to do all my research and make sure I've got all the information based on the writer's intention. Every scene should give you enough information as to what you should be doing with it. Every scene, if it's written, particularly at a professional level, and then you give your version and you be really confident with it. I hope that helps. All right. Emmanuel Ale, I knew you'd have some questions, my friend. In terms of difference between TV and film, do movie stars last longer than TV stars within the industry? That's kind of it's kind of a very subjective thing, really. The problem is it's interchangeable now. TV in terms of production value was always just a bit slightly less than films and movies, wasn't it? But now what you find is that movies, TV series, there's no difference in the production quality, the popularity, the status, the gravitas. So like I've been watching that Yellowstone, if anyone's watched that. The actors that are in that, they're all movie actors, really. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's not much difference. So when it comes to kind of longevity in the industry, I would say that the TV series, the way it is with Netflix and all of this, and with films and movies the way that they are, it's probably just supporting that longevity of acting. I hope that helps. Morning, Mark. Tom O'Toole, official, okay, says, I've been in the industry 26 years and it's a tough industry, very competitive, but all I can say to people, use the knockbacks as a learning curve. What will be, will be. Love advice like that, and it's totally, totally true, okay? Tom, I'm going to shock you, okay? I'm going to shock you. This is the narrative I give out, and I'm gonna obviously, you've been in this industry a long time. The acting industry is competitive if you put yourself alongside everybody else. Everything's competitive. There's 1% of actors and there's 99% of actors. For the 99% of actors, this industry is incredibly tough. But there's the 1% of actors, for me, that if this is from my experience and what I've seen, that act differently, operate differently, different actions, different behaviors, and have uncommon sense around this industry. And that 1% will probably say, look, yes, you have to work hard, but it's not unduly uncompetitive, competitive in comparison to any other industry. My son wants to be a footballer, right? That's statistically, that's 1 in a million young people in academies and young kids, right? It's a 1 in a million chance to be a professional footballer. To be an actor, it's 1 in 100 actors make a regular living from this industry. For me, those odds aren't particularly bad. There's a lot worse industries. And this is just my absolute uber positivity, Tom. All right. But yes, there's knockbacks, but again, it's uncommon sense. Like I said, the 1% don't see these things as knockbacks. I think maybe as learning curves, as you only ever win or learn. And and I think that the 1% that I keep talking about, it's mindset, and it's this ability to have a totally different mindset from the rest. The 99% of actors that can just talk about that narrative of it's tough, and years and graft, and you have to be in a lucky, all these narratives, you have to be lucky. And I teach my actors to just be totally different in their narrative, the way they talk, the way they think. Um, that basically, if you have enough actions, behaviors towards this industry, success can become inevitable. I teach my actors to be the 1% of actors that think and operate differently with uncommon sense. Woof. So, but absolutely. So, thank you so much for that. I really, really appreciate you coming on. And but the one thing that I would say is, if you have the mindset that something's tough, in a way that you think it's impossible, it will serve to be impossible. If you think it's tough and you kind of have a positive mindset, but it's tough, but I'm ready for the challenge and I'm going to really, really up my activity levels and make sure that I'm the hardest working person in the room, then you can turn that into a real positive. All right. Amazing comment. Thank you. Wendy, hi. How are you doing? Can we send 2 versions then? Philomena, yes. Always send 2 versions. All right. Because it increases your it increases the possibility of you getting that role by sending 2 different versions by 100%. Okay, absolutely. Mark says, what do you think is more important, talent or social media followers? I asked this because I spoke to 2 big producers and they said it was social media followers. It kind of confused me. Whew, this is a very 2023 debate. Problem is what is talent? I'm going to get myself into trouble. Oh, well, fine. It's fine. Look, if you get, Mark, if you get invited to an audition, a big audition for a role in a Netflix series, it's a bit like what I said to Philomena earlier. Here's the news for you. Here's the hard truth, all right, that might annoy people, but everybody there can act, right? So it's not a talent competition, okay? You don't get an audition of a certain magnitude or a certain value if you can't act. So therefore, beyond that, Mark, it is just about presenting your version based on your life experience, your personality traits, and all right. So this is the truth. But a huge value area to them, Mark, and it's not just social media followers, right? It's basically a personal brand is eyes on you. So if you maybe have 1 million followers, or maybe you just are Tom Hanks, right, who just has, or someone like Ruth Wilson, who isn't even on social media, but she has a lot of eyes on her looking, look, I want to know what Ruth Wilson is in next. She knows she has a huge personal brand, not particularly on social media, not particularly followers. But whatever she gets involved in, the eyes that are on her or waiting to see what she's in will go to that project and sell that project. In 2023, actors can get as many eyes on them or get a personal brand that's huge, and they don't particularly have to do the 30 years that Tom Hanks has had to do to get a huge personal brand, if that makes sense. So yes, producers are aware that if they have even small characters and bit parts, and that person has a huge personal brand and a huge ability to market themselves, those eyes and that marketability will then fall upon the said project. And that's the truth in 2023. I'm not saying I agree with it. There's so many people will be tutting and going, well, that's disgraceful because, there's people who have worked on their craft for years and years and years, and it shouldn't be about social media followers. I agree. Doesn't always make it not true, if that makes sense. All right. So all that we can do as actors is work hard. Now it takes it actually takes just as hard work to maybe work on your technique as it does to it's just as hard work to actually build a personal brand and build a kind of get eyes on you for what you do, have a PR. If you're an established actor, you do this, all happens for you. You get PR, you get somebody taking charge of your social media. as an emerging actor, maybe you just have to do this for yourself to begin with and just get wise. It's a business. Could you imagine? Here's the thing. So acting is a business. If you're an actor watching this, you are a business. You're as much of a business as Apple. You're as much of a business as anybody else, right? As any other company. Could you imagine if Apple wasn't on social media and didn't have many followers? Could you imagine if a company that wanted to do business with and wanted to have a certain amount of trust with wasn't on social media in 2023? Okay. So I'll just leave that there. So that's the point. And I think if somebody isn't on social media or working hard on social media, then they're not operating as a business, and you really just have to come to terms with the fact as an actor sometimes that you have to operate just as much as a business as any other business and operate in exactly the same way, whether that's working hard on your social media, your following, your presence, having a website, maybe having, and really, because you are a product and you're selling that product. It's as simple as that. I hope that helps. Any comments? Everything is hard, but nothing is impossible. Okay. Any more questions? If you had to restart your journey in the acting industry, how would you start? Would you do things differently or not? Is this me personally? No, I wouldn't. Okay. I found what I was absolutely passionate about. Rather than skirting that, what I would say is, when I was 15, 16, 17, obviously I was a talented young kid, but when I got to that age, just like a lot of my actors do, if I'm totally honest, I found, girls and going out and all sorts of things, and really put in a stage where your acting career, as an actor, in that stage where your career is really, really on a pivotal moment, this is when a lot of young actors lose interest just naturally. So the best thing about a coach is I'm able to actually speak to actors of that age and say, look, this is a pivotal stage. You're going from child actor to adult actor, and you have to work, actually double down. So I'm actually able to from experience, help actors in that stage. So rather than skirting the question, Chantal, I would say that is the only kind of, I won't call it a regret, but the only thing that I would do differently. However, I'm glad how things worked out, because I wouldn't have genuinely found my overarching passion, which is actually getting other people to achieve their goals and their dreams and their aspirations. Okay, Ryan says, do you think there is substance in timing, example, being the right place at the right time, or just hard work? Ryan, that's a really good question. So one of the biggest, I won't call it a myth. It's not a myth. The biggest things put out by maybe people who don't know acting, or maybe people or coaches who just kind of put out tired propaganda, and they'll just say, like, look, you just have to be in the right place at the right time. And everyone will say that, and it's just like a thing that just becomes a thing. But that's the same for everything. Opportunity comes along. But if you're not in the right place to see it, an opportunity, or you're not actually doing the work, basically it takes a lot of action to put yourself in the way of opportunity. Does that make sense? So if you don't go to acting classes and you don't have an agent, you're never going to be in the way of opportunity. But if you work hard and you put yourself in the way of constant opportunities, one of those opportunities will pay off. All right. So it's not, so when you say it's like the right place at the right time, it just makes it feel like luck. And it's not luck to put yourself in the way of so many opportunities that, of course, one of them is going to pay off. Does that make sense? All right. So the trick really is rather than going, I've just got to be in the right place at the right time. The trick actually is to constantly be putting yourself in the way of opportunity through hard work, dedication, big, massive, urgent action always. All right. And make sure that you genuinely are always in the way of opportunities because one of them will pay off. All right. Emmanuel Arle's back. Emmanuel says, as an acting coach, can you tell when someone is coming into this industry for the wrong reason? Yeah, I can actually, Emmanuel. I can. So fame, hungry, all of that stuff. Look, the problem is, yes, people have different reasons for getting into this industry. And actually, the one thing I would say is that I'm not actually that. What's the word? I'm not that. I don't actually feel any kind of. I don't feel bad towards people who want fame and stuff like that. It's fine. It's fine. You know, in the back of any actor who's in classes, right? If you're really honest with yourself, we all want recognition for our hard work and what we do. And that's what fame is a lot of the time. But there's another type of fame, and that is comes from quite a sad place, and that's attention. So attention is right. How do I describe this? So basically, psychologically, people mix up attention for love. And what you find is a lot of people who feel like they don't have much love shown in their direction instead want attention. Does that make sense? And it's quite sad, really. So people get attention and think it's love, and it makes them feel good. And that attention, fame, and it's all mixed up. But what I try and do as a coach is try and make sure that actually people get attention for a really positive thing. All right. We all have a need for a certain amount of attention, but why not have a need and get positive attention? You know, some people go out and do really bad things, you know, for attention. And they don't know why they're doing it, but it's because they mistake attention for love, even negative attention. But I like the idea of people going and doing something really constructive, like an acting class and like getting an agent and getting recognition for something really positive. And as long as they do it in a really positive way, I'm not actually that bothered about anybody that's kind of doing it for the fame. All right. It doesn't really upset me that much. I just think that because it's for the fame, that they will struggle with the psychological impact of things like rejection and things like that. They will find it much tougher, but that's for a coach and someone like me to navigate and help them with, as opposed to somebody who sees it as a business, as a job. You know. Let's have a look. I hope that answered that question. Okay, we've had one from Athena. How can you gain a personal agent according to your profile? Basically, there's a few ways to get an agent. Write to them, join an organization like Matt's Interacting, where we've got a successful agency attached. We're quite lucky like that. And basically, when you I know Athena, you're Greek, for instance, so you're very you might have a good chance of getting an agent, a bigger agent, because agents need to have a kind of variety on their books. But I've got a really good episode on Matt's Interacting tips all about the truth about agencies. So make sure you go watch that. Last couple of questions. Emmanuel says, how do you deal with toxic people or toxic culture within the industry? E.g. acting schools where actors are putting each other down instead of collaborating with each other. Emmanuel, amazing. So basically, the problem is, and you can see the narrative that gets put forward, and that is, it's a tough industry. It's, you've got to be in the right place at the right time. All of these make people feel like that they are in competition with each other. And you're just not. I mean, why would, if you were in an acting class with, I don't know, Mark Haxby, who's been on this call, right? You and him are not really not going to go for the same role. And if you are, you're going to present two different versions of that role. So you're not in competition. And it's such a 99% thinking, you know, where all the whole of this industry are all in competition. And then you get acting classes that support that. And they say, like, right, you know, work hard, you have to be the best in this class. And as we know, it's not an acting competition. It's about making people, freeing people up to present their version, make brave choices, and show who they are. And the one thing that in our organization that we are known for, the principles that we are known for, is everybody supports each other. If anyone chucks on a self-tape request, they say, right, who's going to help me with this? And everybody's always helping each other. Emmanuel, you're the best at this. You know, you always jump up and help someone with the self-tape request. And it's different. That's why we're different, because I don't teach people to compete. There's no point, okay? Because why? Who are we competing against? There's no, unless you find Dolly the sheep, you know, a clone, all right? There's just, you've got no one to compete with at all. Even twins are different, right? So he's like, what? It's just the most stupidest thing in the world to compete against other actors. It makes zero sense. And it's a very 99% against the 1% mentality. 1%, like I say, uncommon sense, and they succeed much easier, more easily than the 99%. Right. I've really enjoyed that, guys. Okay. Really enjoyed that. If anyone's on here and they enjoyed the debate, they enjoyed what you heard, get on here and DM me, and I'll get a free acting class to you. So you can also understand what it's like to be part of an acting community and organization where people genuinely don't compete, and you learn the Trinity acting method. You learn really high value pro acting methods, but as well as that, business mindset, and learn how to be one of the 1% of actors, not the 99% of actors that struggle. Okay. DM me. You can have a free acting class. So if you think I'm maybe even talking rubbish, I will show you exactly how it works. All right. Get in touch. Much love, everyone else.